G'day guys, Dane here from Clarkie's NRL column. Welcome to the weekend trial guide, in particular tonight. Obviously we had a trial last night where the Melbourne Storm were defeated by the New Zealand Warriors 12-6. Very suspect pass there when Chase Blair scored for the Storm. Good to see Gerard Sutton off to a flying start for 2019, guys. But what this is like I said, don't want to waste too much time. Players to watch in particular for all the trials tonight, what time they're on at, Australian Eastern Daylight Time, of course. If you're standard time, I believe at an hour, and the stadium it's at. So we'll start off, we've got the Dragons versus Knights at 4 p.m. at WIN Stadium. Now, my players to watch here, I guess to start off with, it's Hunt, Norman, and Widdop. And you can throw Duffy in that mix as well. All four have been named, and I guess to some extent, we can almost assume certainly Ben Hunt will be the halfback there, but there is sort of a question mark as to where Duffy fits in at fullback or potentially on the wing. As well as who is the fullback. If it is Norman or Widdop, we don't know. So it's very interesting that all four of them been named, and it's a little bit of a puzzle. I guess Mary McGregor will hope to solve throughout the night. Second all, we've got the Sims brothers back together, Tariq Sims and Corbin Sims, two very aggressive, great players. And another player in particular we need to keep an eye on is Reece Robson. He's a young gun hooker for the St. George Illawarra Dragons. When I did an interview with Darren Nichols, the St. George Illawarra Dragons halfback, he said he's the player to watch and the player with all the ones that have come through with him at Intrust Super Premiership level. He said Reece Robson is the man to watch there. So very interesting, as I think he has very genuine chance to snag the number 14 jersey for the Dragons. And I'm predicting it to be in sort of a way similar to what Victor Radley did. He is primarily a hooker, but I expect he'll play a bit of minutes at lock, back row, as he eases his way into that first grade side. We'll move on to the Newcastle Knights, guys. Now, first of all, Pearce and Ponga have both been named. You have to assume at some time in the game they have some game time together. We get to see their combination and sort of see where it's at in this preseason, given Kalen Ponga's new half position there. Obviously, he didn't look too flashed in the All-Stars game, but we can't overstate. He was partnered with another fullback in Jerome Hughes, and certainly a partnership that he's not primarily used to. Having Pearce next to him, a top 5 halfback, will do them no harm. And I think it is very interesting to see where their development is at this stage of the preseason. And another one, of course, is where is the chemistry and cohesion with this Knights team at? Obviously, last season they made a host of new signings, and they didn't look too terrible out of place. But again, this year they've gone out and signed even more players. So it's just really interesting as to where the whole team cohesion is at. As we know, it does take a while to build that up in rugby league. Now, our next 3 games that I'm going to touch on are all at the 6 p.m. time slot. So again, they're all at 6 p.m, so you're going to need to choose which game you want to watch here. And there is 3. So your options are Rabbitohs versus Panthers, Bulldogs versus Raiders, and Titans versus Cowboys. I would recommend the Titans game. So we'll go first, Rabbitohs versus Panthers at Redfern Oval. For the Rabbitohs, straight away we need to look at Cameron Murray. He's starting at lock, and he's actually shifted Sam Burgess to the back row, which is something I sort of predicted we would see occur. Obviously, the 8th Immortal Andrew Johns has labelled Cameron Murray as a future rep player and potential captain. He gets his chance in a starting side for the first time, or not the first time, but for what potentially could be a long season to come in 2019. I think he's a very strong chance to lock down that starting spot. So we'll see how he goes tonight. Of course, it's the John Sutton testimonial game. For me, this is well overdue. A one-club legend for the Rabbitohs. So definitely, hoping Sutton gets a try even potentially. That would be awesome to see. And another thing here, guys, I'm really interested to watch Corey Allen on the wing. Obviously, we were thinking he will be the fullback for the South Sydney Rabbitohs come round 1, given Inglis had that question mark. And there was also a question mark at that stage whether he was actually going to be a fullback or centre. Now we know Greg Inglis wants to be a fullback. And from what we're hearing, he seems to think the knee issue isn't going to affect the start to his season. In fact, he's actually set to return next week if he can have it his way. Rabbitohs coaching staff obviously still have a decision to make there. but super interesting. And I guess if Corey Allen does prove his worth on the wing, with Robert Jennings obviously having signed with the Tigers this week, that could potentially open a door there for him in first grade. I don't necessarily think he would be on the wing straight away. I think you go with Braden Burns and Alex Johnston, but I certainly think during the Origin rep period, Corey Allen will be in that side no matter what, with Gagai and Inglis gone. We'll go to the Panthers, guys. Not too much here that jumped out at me. I suppose the biggest one is Ivan Cleary has confirmed he's looking for an 80-minute hooker. So that obviously leaves the door ajar for either Wade Egan or Sione Katoa to nab that jersey. Katoa has been named to start. Egan is on our bench. Whoever plays the better game tonight, you would have to think goes a long way to getting their hands on the 80-minute jersey if what we're hearing is correct. And another one, James Maloney. I'm just keen to see how he is. You know, he's had so many question marks about his form, about his health over the past couple years. Guys, you can't forget last year, James Maloney could not lift his arm. He couldn't feel his arm, and he was playing professional sport. So the recommended cortisone dosage, you can have up to 3 in a year. He had all 3 of them within like a month. So he played the whole year heavily injured. Obviously, he's back to 100%. I'm keen to see a rejuvenated James Maloney and how he looks leading around this Panthers side. Our next game, the Bega Recreation Ground. We've got the Canberra Raiders up against the Canterbury Bulldogs. First of all, for the Raiders, it's Jared Croker's first game back, so you can't not be excited about that. The club captain, obviously returning from a knee injury from last year. I'm keen to see how Croker slots straight back into that side. Another man, Jack Whiten, his first game back since suspension, and we're hearing he won't be at fullback tonight. He'll be at 5'8". That is his position moving forward, it is believed, which opens the fullback door to Chance Nickel-Klogstad, obviously a new recruit from the New Zealand Warriors. He looked very good against the Parramatta Eels, and you have to think if he maintains that form or improves on it come tonight, he goes a long way to becoming the Raiders' #1 throughout 2019. And in fact, co-captain Josh Hodgson has him leading the race. So CNK will be hoping to have a big game tonight. And a real interesting one for me. Again, John Bateman has not been named for the Raiders, but they have named their other English recruit, Ryan Sutton. You have to wonder why John Bateman isn't getting named. We obviously don't know of any injuries. Perhaps it's Ricky Stewart keeping a wild card up his sleeve, because from all reports, he's a very good player, and obviously he was on the Golden Boot shortlist last year. So what's Ricky doing? We don't know. Hopefully we get to see John Bateman soon. We'll go to the Bulldogs, and I tell you what, the Raiders forward pack has it coming. Dylan Napa has been named to play, and you have to think, after everything he's been through this offseason, he's set to explode and really put on some big monstrous hits. Really happy to see Dylan Napa back out there in terms of his mental health, and I'm hoping he has a great game. Best of luck, Dylan. And I guess the other big thing for the Bulldogs is the halves battle. Now, there's Kieran Foran there, and there's obviously Jeremy Marshall-King, there's Jack Cogger, and there's Lachlan Lewis. Of those 4, I'm thinking you have to sort of go with Kieran Foran and Lockie Lewis as your half pairing for 2019. But interesting situation here. When Jack Cogger signed from the Knights, he was guaranteed he would get a starting role there. That's obviously no longer the case, so he'll have a point to prove tonight. And I think Jeremy Marshall-King, whether we see him feature in the halves or hooker, we're hearing Dean Pay could be set to scrap Michael Leisha either to the bench or reserve grade and play Jeremy Marshall-King. So he'll also want to have a very strong game. We'll move to the North Queensland Cowboys taking on the 2019 Premiers Gold Coast Titans at Sunshine Coast Stadium. Now for us, my boys, I've got to have a look at Cartwright here. He's starting. There's no more excuses for you, Carty. Obviously, you have faced your mental demons in the past, and what's happened to you has been very unfortunate. And as a result, you haven't been able to play your best footy, but I just feel you're refreshed. And from all reports, Cartwright has had a very strong, solid off-season, turning up to days to continue training where he was not required. So I'm really excited to see how he takes this starting jersey, and I'm certainly hoping he takes the opportunity with both hands and runs with it. He'd go a long way to getting into our top 17 if he can do so. Another one, our young forward pack. Now, when I say that, there's obviously Jai Whitbread, Max King, Morgan Boyle. There's a host of names. There's about, when I did my Predictors Titans 17, there was 16 players there that had to be there. And when I say had to be there, there's so many that you could chop and change. For example, we go to our centres. We've got Brian Kelly, Tyrone Peachy. We've got Dale Copley and Branko Lee also. So there's so much competition that I can realistically name 16 players that have to be there, and at least about one bench spot open. I'm tipping Max King to take that bench spot, but there's so many young forwards named today that no doubt whoever stands out and has a great game will go a long way to snagging that last bench spot for us. And number 22, Ben Thomas, you won't miss him. He's the red-headed kid out there. I went to the same high school as Ben. He's a very cool person, and best of luck today, Benny. I hope you kill it, brother. We'll move on to the Cowboys now. Carlin Anderson. All right, guys. So when Ben Barber was sacked, I identified Carlin Anderson as the most likely internal solution for the Cowboys. Of course, they did sign Jordan Kahu, but from what we know, football is a crazy game. Kahu can play center or wing, so the door for Carlin Anderson to play first grade has certainly not been shut. I think if he has a strong game at fullback tonight, that's certainly what he'll be looking to do, and I'm hoping he does so. Both halves. Now, we've got Tamir Martin and we have Jake Clifford there. Obviously, Michael Morgan has come out and said he doesn't want to play fullback anymore. He wants to be a halfback, so one of those men will be partnering him in 2019. We don't know who, but again, I guess that's the story of trial games. Whoever plays the best tonight will go a long way towards that. And Ethan Lowe, I guess sort of my question mark over him is, where is his head at? Obviously, there's the rumour he's set to sign with the South Sydney Rabbitohs. He was dumped in reserve grade for a large part of 2018, and he's starting tonight. So he's got every chance to impress. But you have to wonder how much of him wants to go out and play super hard tonight and then get injured. And then the Rabbitohs are no longer interested in signing him. It's a tough situation for Lowe. I hope he has a good game regardless. We'll move on to 7:30 p.m, guys. The Cronulla Sharks take on the Manly Sea Eagles at Shark Park. Obviously, there was a late ground change there. I believe that was originally at Brookvale, but the oval wasn't up to scratch. Sharks, Bronson Xerri, number 3. Do not blink with this kid, guys. I got asked so much this offseason who is the best up-and-comer. So much so, I've written a couple columns on it, and I've named Bronson Xerri almost every time there, guys. Look, Coach Shane Flanagan, a premiership-winning coach, obviously former coach now, he wanted to debut for Xerri last year in 2018, and the NRL said, no, he's still 17 years old. He cannot debut. He can play reserve grade. So what Flanagan did was put him in reserve grade for the Newtown Jets, and Xerri scored 3 tries there. So Bronson Xerri, definitely a name you will want to write down, and a name that you will be forced to remember, I feel, in the coming years. He is your starting center. Keep your eye on him. And of course, 2 other young guns, Blake Brayley and Kyle Flanagan. Kyle Flanagan will start at 5'8" tonight with Blake Brayley at hooker. That's not Jaden, guys. That is Blake, his younger brother. And realistically, I think these 2 are in contention for the number 14 jersey. Obviously, with James Seguiaro departing the club, I think they wouldn't have let Seguiaro go if they didn't believe in Blake Brayley. But of course, Kyle Flanagan has a bit more versatility value there. So it'll be interesting as to who John Morris goes with for the 14 jersey. Sea Eagles, guys, now, they haven't named their team. They're not required to do so, as it is only a trial game. But I guess the biggest question mark here is, will Dylan Walker play, given he has an upcoming court case? Our last game tonight, guys, is at 8 p.m. So I suppose you can watch the first quarter of the Sharkies and switch over if you're a Broncos fan. But we've got the Broncos versus their other feeder club, Wynnum Seagulls. I'm not sure, but the Broncos always play their trials against their own feeder clubs. To me, I mean, you're keeping it internal, but the game's still being broadcasted, and you're doubling the chances of your players being injured. So, I mean, strange. But then I suppose they were going to play a trial with someone else, both teams, so maybe it does make sense. But the Broncos, obviously, they're young gun halves. We've got Tommy Dearden and Sean O'Sullivan, guys. We need to keep an eye on both of these men. Obviously, Milford and Nikorima were criticised heavily through 2018 that their form was not good enough. The club is now equipped with so many young, great halves, and also a new coach in Seabold, where I don't think he'll hesitate to drop Milford or Nikorima. Again, he's an incoming coach. He didn't sign them to the deals they're currently on, so I don't think there's a hesitation when it comes to dropping them potentially for a couple of weeks to refine their form. both of these men will be looking to impress. For the Broncos, it's their young forward pack all itching and fighting for a spot in that Broncos squad. Tavita Pengai Jr. named to start at lock. But most importantly, guys, the news we got through the week, Payne Haas suspended for the first month. Again, guys, Payne Haas gone for the first 4 rounds of NRL action. So realistically, every single young forward that's playing this game is a chance to play NRL for rounds 1 to 4 while Haas is out. They'll all be itching. But the biggest storyline of this, Jack Bird is back, ladies and gentlemen. Jack Bird is at centre. Anthony Seibold thinks that's where he plays his best football. And I suppose you can't argue, given he did have New South Wales rep honours whilst playing centre for the Cronulla Sharks, guys. Very interesting night of trial games up ahead. Hopefully this video give you a little bit of an insight as to what I'm watching and looking for throughout the night. As far as games I can actually watch, it does suck. There are some overlapping schedules there. But again, they are trial games, guys. There's obviously no huge incentive to go out there and win. Nonetheless, guys, footy's back. Any footy is good footy. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And most importantly, I hope you enjoyed the trial games tonight. My name's Dane from Clarkie's NRL column. You guys know where to find me, and if you don't, just look right ahead, and all my social media handles are above. Thank you for watching, guys. Have a good one.